Hello and welcome to Rooted in Yad, where I talk about what it's really like living in Jamaica so that you can know what to expect and how to thrive if you're planning to move here. And today, hello, editing Misha here. So this is the next part of the me talking about the cost of living in Jamaica, or at least my cost of living in Jamaica, right? And again, what had happened was I filmed the entire video. It was too long, so I cut it into parts. So this will be the next part of me talking about some of those costs that I have experienced or that I had. Now, do keep in mind, okay, different parts of Jamaica will have different costs of living, right? Like Kingston, the capital, those costs are probably going to be like the highest in Jamaica when it comes to certain things. And then, depending on where you go on the island, things can be more affordable, but then there's going to be trade-offs. That's something I want you to think about is that there's going to be trade-offs. So let's say if you were to go to, I don't know, Mandeville, or you were to go to Westmoreland or something like that, okay, and you were going to go to a smaller town in Jamaica, things like rent and such may be cheaper or more affordable, way more affordable. But then there's a trade-off of like, okay, how are you going to get around, especially if you don't have a car, because the city is going to be smaller, right? Which means there might not be as much ways to get around, as many ways as you would have, like, let's say in Kingston or Montego Bay. Or maybe you can get to and from the little town that's there, but maybe there's just not much there, right? There's not as much as there would be in some of the bigger cities. So this is kind of like things that you have to think about. Like, yes, certain places are more affordable. Certain things may be affordable in different places, but then also, what is the trade-off for that? So that's just something to keep in mind, as well as like, okay, let's say if you want a place with a lower rent, right? You want to live somewhere with a lower rent because I guess you can get some lower rents out here. If you want a place with a lower rent, but it's kind of like, okay, well, what's your standard of living going to be? Like, you got to think about that, because maybe you won't be used to it, right? Maybe it'll be a lower, like, maybe it'll be a lower rent, but I don't know. Maybe the kitchen is going to be like super tiny, right? So, or there's going to be no space, or the layout is going to be stupid, or it's just going to be like a really ugly place. Like, so these are just some things that you got to think about. Or at least I think that you should think about. In the meantime, I'm going to continue talking about what some of my costs were, but just remember, depending on your situation, things may be more costly or less costly, right? I'll give another quick example. I don't remember if I'm going to talk about it in this video or if I talked about it in the last one, but when it comes to like car insurance, if you want to get a car, depending on your car type, the insurance can be it can be a lot, right? Like, my car insurance was more affordable than in Canada, at least in Ontario. My car insurance was significantly more affordable than in Ontario, Canada. And probably, you'll find it to be very affordable as well when I talk about it. But it depends on the type of car. Because, for example, if I wanted, I don't know, some fancy new, I don't know, car, BMW or something, if I wanted some fancy new car, that insurance is going to be comparable, if not more, than Canada. I have seen people talk about how much their car insurance and stuff is, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then they tell me the type of car that they have, and I'm like, oh, that's why. Right? So just like, that's what I'm saying. You got to kind of, I'm talking about this, but don't just take what I'm saying for face value. Please go into groups. I have a free community at this point. Now, there's not a lot of Jamaicans in there right now, and not a lot of people in there right now sharing, like, who live here, sharing their expenses and stuff. But over time, that will happen, right? But the whole point is, you want to get into community. You want to get into community with people in advance. You want to join groups. You want to ask questions so that you can get a better idea of what your costs might be for the standard of living that you are expecting or that you want. Because honestly, I feel that in Jamaica, you can live as affordably as you want to, right? If you want to just, I don't know, you really just want to just unplug from everything and go build a board house somewhere and not pay any bills and just, I mean, you can do that. People do that out here, right? You can do that. You just have to be smart about it and know what you're doing, but you could do that. That's how we survived for so long. We didn't have all of this, right? But then, if you want to live like a king, you can do that out here too. It's just you got to think about that cost, right? You got to think about your budget. So, yeah, I think that's all I want to say for here for this intro. So I'm gonna just get right into it. But I implore you, don't just take what I'm saying at face value. What I'm saying gives you some indication of what my costs have been. But you also have to take in account what you are expecting, right? You need to think about the type of lifestyle you want to have. Remember, in all of what I'm saying, like, I don't even have really a budget for going out because I don't go out. What do I need to go out for? I'm an introvert. I like my house. Right? But you may not be like that, right? So this is why I'm saying you gotta you gotta think really about your situation. And as I said with the last video, there's going to be a freebie associated with this, where you're going to see, the costs that I'm talking about. In my Moving to Jamaica starter guide, I do have more of a breakdown of some other costs that people have talked about, like medical and this and that. So there will be that if you want to see that. But the freebie will be there. It'll be linked in the pinned comment and in the description. Okay, I think I've said enough. I'm going to get right into part 2, or this next part, and I hope that you find it informative. I do want to talk about some hidden costs that you might not be thinking about or that you may have to factor in. Okay, so one of these costs is if you are renting somewhere unfurnished. If you see a listing for an unfurnished place and you're like, oh wow, that seems reasonable, I will rent that place. You need to factor in the cost for appliances because you see in Canada, in places like Canada and the US, if you rent unfurnished, okay, you don't get a table and a couch and a bed and stuff like that, but you still get appliances, right? It's not like that in Jamaica. When you see unfinished in Jamaica, they mean they are giving you the shelter alone. That's it. You don't even get a microwave. I think sometimes you're lucky if you even get light bulbs in there. Like, there's nothing. It is literally just this shelter, okay? So this means that if you are renting unfurnished, then you are responsible for getting a fridge. You are responsible for getting a stove. You're responsible for getting a washer. You're responsible for all of those things, okay? And those things can be very pricey. The cost of appliances in Jamaica will likely be as much or more than what you'd pay right now in your country or country of origin. So just to give you kind of an example of what we had spent for some things. So if you want a decent sized stove, like let's say it's a 30-inch stove with a 5-burner, you're looking at a minimum of 50,000 Jamaican dollars. Okay, now for the bed and bed frame, and I think even the dresser, I know we spent almost 100,000 Jamaican dollars for those 3 items. Let's just say it was like 90,000 Jamaican dollars for those 3 items. Yeah, because the furniture and stuff is expensive. In Canada, we never would have spent that money. I mean, we already had a bed and dresser and all that, but we never would have spent that much money to get a bed frame and dresser. But over here, we had to. So let's just say it's 90,000 Jamaican dollars for those 3 items. And then the table and chairs for the kitchen was about 20,000 Jamaican dollars. And then the TV, I don't remember what we paid. Something, I've been talking about this. I think it was like 50,000 Jamaican dollars that we paid for the TV. It's not the best quality, but it's decent enough. And then, okay, another cost you're gonna have to consider when you're thinking about coming to Jamaica, moving to Jamaica, right? Is you also gotta think about visiting back your country of origin, right? If you need to visit, you gotta ensure you factor that in and save for that, because if you don't save for it and put it aside, budget and put it aside early, like the money can go out quick out here. It can go out quick. So saving for that. I don't know how much that cost is going to be. So just thinking about that cost and just putting that aside from early. And then you got to think about, okay, are you going to be buying a car or are you going to be taking taxi? If you're buying a car, okay, any decent car, even if it's an old car, any decent car that you're not going to have to like immediately work on is going to cost you a minimum of 1 million Jamaican dollars. Minimum. In Canada, the car we have now, we never would have paid that much for it. We never, but it's Jamaica. And because it's a decent enough car, we had to pay a minimum of 1 million Jamaican dollars for it. Then, when you're thinking about the car, you got to think about paying to license the car. Then you have to, and that's every year. You pay to license it every year. You have to pay for fitness every year. And you have to pay insurance every year, right? You got to think about those costs. Now, if you're taking taxi and bus, those are much cheaper. Like it's, typically it's like under 300 Jamaican dollars each way. Like if you're going from wherever you are into town, typically it's like quite cheap. It's under 300 Jamaican dollars per person each way. So that is very, very cost effective. Unless you want to take like Uber. They have Uber out here. I don't remember if Lyft is out here. Like they have some ride services out here. If you want to do taxi, as in you want to take the taxi alone and it's not an Uber, they call that a charter taxi. And you're going to be paying at least 1,500 Jamaican dollars each way. When I say taxi, by the way, just in case you weren't aware, when you take a taxi in Jamaica, the taxi is a form of public transportation. So when you take a taxi in Jamaica, it's not like where you are where you take taxi and you're alone. You're going to be in the taxi like how you would be in a bus. You're in the taxi with a bunch of other people, and sometimes you're packed in there like sardines. And sometimes it's like a bigger vehicle. Sometimes it's a regular size car with 5 or 6 people shoved in, depending how busy things are and how insistent people are that they need to get into that taxi and go where they're going. But yeah, you're not taking taxi alone. You are taking taxi with other people. If you want to take taxi alone, then that would be a charter taxi, and you're going to be paying a minimum of 1,500 Jamaican dollars per way, which could still be affordable. I don't know how much Uber costs out here. I've never tried Uber. So maybe Uber will be more affordable than that, or maybe not. Maybe you also pay a little more for the convenience of being able to use an app rather than like try and call a taxi man out here. But yeah, you have those options as well, but you got to think about your transportation, how you want to do it. But to start, you could certainly do local taxi. Just make sure that they have a red plate. All legal local taxis will have a red license plate. So just make sure they have a red license plate. And I talk about in my moving to Jamaica starter guide about figuring out which taxi goes to your area, stuff like that. So that's something you can do. You can take local taxi like everybody else. I've done it. When I first moved here, I did it. It's fine. Okay, so I think that is it for today. So again, just to re-summarize, my typical core costs were about 96,800 Jamaican dollars. But then, I don't know. I was spending, the whole point is I'm here and have been spending under 200,000 Jamaican dollars to live. Which, I mean, I'm spending also under that because it's not like I have all that to spend. You got to do what's within your means, right? But also it is way more affordable than Canada. I've talked to people about, I've mentioned before about what we were paying in Canada, 2,500 Canadian dollars just to exist. That is going, in fact, I worked from home, so it's not even to work and to home. I worked from home and we were still spending that much, and we didn't go anywhere or do anything, and that's just to survive. And over here I'm spending under that much. So that's but then you got to consider certain things for your your lifestyle and stuff like that, because yeah, your acceptable standards of living may be different than mine, and you may have a larger family, or you may have other needs. Maybe you have certain dietary needs that I don't have, and that'll inflate certain costs. There's things like that that you got to consider. But these were my typical costs. I am thinking for the average person, they are probably going to end up spending, when they come here, move back here, they're probably going to end up spending 200,000 Jamaican dollars a month. Because rent alone rent alone would be a minimum probably of 100,000. Anything under 100,000 Jamaican dollars is a good deal. And that's a good, if you can get it, that's a good deal. Especially for like a gated community. So I'm thinking maybe it's 2,500,000 Jamaican dollars a month actually would probably be the typical monthly cost for someone from foreign who like doesn't really have any connections or something out here. That's probably how much they would spend. Either way, I think it would be more affordable than where you are. Like if you're from the US, if you're from Canada, if you're from, especially if you're from the UK, I feel like it would be a lot more affordable than where you are right now. Like your typical overall cost. Some things are going to cost you more than where you are, but like I feel like it kind of evens out. Like, you know, so some of the, me getting the appliances and the furniture, I'm like, hell no, I wouldn't pay this much in Canada. But at the same time, there's certain other things even out, and like my costs kind of overall, the average I spend is on the lower end, and it's lower than what I would typically spend in Canada. So I'm fairly certain that would be the same for you. Yeah, yeah. And you know, when you come here and stuff, I have a whole video. I have a whole video, two videos where I have interviewed a realtor, Nicola. I interviewed Nicola. And she talks about, I'm supposed to be doing another interview with her about buying in Jamaica, but in terms of renting, she talks all about that and the typical costs that people spend to rent. Yeah, typically I think the rent is like 1,200 Jamaican dollars. It'd be nice if it was 1,200 Jamaican dollars. No, it's 1,200 US dollars is the typical price to rent. Let's say, you know, a nice gated area with like the standard of living that you're probably used to now. You know, living very nice. Yeah, but you can get places here. You can get places here for less. Like she was talking about, and especially because, you know, she's a realtor, and like when you go through a realtor and you're going through their clients, and their clients are vetted in a particular way, like, so it makes it worth the price for the peace of mind. But you can get things, you can get things cheaper out here. That's why I'm like, you know, the typical, I still think it would be worth it. I still think it would be more affordable than where you're at. And, you know, honestly, even if it was close to the same price, the standard of living that you're going to have out here, okay, the fresh air, the beautiful weather year round, the fresh foods, the access to fresh foods and fresh fruits, it's just, I don't know, there's a standard of living, the quality of life. What I mean is the quality of life that you're going to get out here, I'd say it's worth it. It's worth it to be out here. I would rather be out here. I would rather be out here. Anyway, I've said enough. That is it. I'm going to end it here. That is it. I hope that you found this helpful or informative or at least entertaining. If you did, do hit that like button to let me know, and also leave a comment and let me know as well. But I want to hear from you, okay? Especially if, because I know Jamaicans watch my channel. I know y'all watch my channel. I appreciate you being here. But especially, you know, if you're Jamaican or if you are living here, what else do you think people need to know about the cost of living? Are there any expenses that I missed, that, you know, you're like, hey, like maybe it doesn't apply to me. Because as I said, like, I don't really do much. I don't really go nowhere. I don't really see anything. I love my home. So, I don't know. Are there any expenses that you think I missed? If so, share it in the comments and you know, let the people know. Or if you know you're not from here and you're like, hey, well, what about the cost of this thing? What about the cost of that thing? You know, leave it in the comments and ask. I also did, as I said, in my Moving to Jamaica starter guide, I do have like a whole chart there of like a bunch of different costs. I even talk about like, I think like healthcare and stuff like that, because I had surveyed other people who had, you know, gone to the doctor recently or gone to the eye doctor recently, things like that. Optometrist, yes, they'd gone to the optometrist recently, things like that, and they were sharing their cost breakdowns. I have included all of that in the guide, so it's there if you want to see it. But yeah, if there's anything I didn't cover and you're like, hey, this and this costs that, cool, leave it. Oh, I also do want to say real quick that different places have different prices. keep that in mind as well. I'm coming from a particular place. Like Monique from Kingston, I had done an interview with her. I will link it in the description about finding things to do in Jamaica, or like building community in Jamaica. So I had interviewed her, but on her channel, she has also talked about her costs. She's in Kingston, right? Monique from Kingston. She's in Kingston. She's talked about her costs. And I remember writing her comments like, girl, why are you paying this? My costs are like half of yours. What? You're paying how much for rent? I'm only paying this much for rent. Yeah, I mean, you know, Kingston's going to be more expensive. It's just going to be more expensive in general. So just keep that in mind as well, that the costs can differ. The pricing can differ. Even like, I remember I was on Facebook Marketplace looking for something, and I saw the cost of something in Mandeville was cheaper than in Mobay. It wouldn't have made it worth it for me to go out there and get it. And turns out I didn't need it, but like, you know, just as I said, things in general can be more affordable depending on where you are on the island. Okay, so that is it. I'm done. That is it. Yeah, I hope that you found this helpful, informative, or at least entertaining. Again, let me know, and let me know if you have any comments, any feedback. Because yeah, maybe I might learn something, or maybe you might say something. I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And if you are planning to move here, don't leave without grabbing your freebies. Not just the one that I mentioned in this video, but I do have more freebies on my site. And if you want even more support, I am now offering one-on-one support. I'm offering voice notes, so we can talk on voice notes. Like, you can send voice notes on WhatsApp. We can go back and forth and answer your questions, or we can have like a direct video call, like an hour-long video call where we like, you know, we talk about your relocation and go over stuff like that. So if you want that, I am offering it now. The link will be in the comments and in the description. The next way that I can help you, if let's say you don't want to call, you don't want to do voice notes, you're like, no, I don't need all of that, but I do want some information. I've talked about this multiple times, the Moving to Jamaica Starter Guide. It is still available for early access at this point of me recording the video for $10. The early access price is just $10. For that price, you're getting access to parts 1 and 2, which is a lot of information. It's 50 pages of information. There will be a table, there's a table of contents, so you can see exactly what you're getting in parts 1 and 2, and also what you will be getting in parts 3 and 4. So if you're interested in that, again, it's only $10 for the early access price. The price will go up once the guide is complete, but if you want it early for that price, you can get it for the cheaper price right now. And then the last thing I do want to mention is my Clarity workbook. It's called the Life You Want workbook. So essentially this is a really good workbook to get if you're kind of not sure if living in Jamaica would align with, you know, your goals and your vision for your life, or maybe you don't know what you want. Maybe you don't know what you want, and if you're not sure if what you want is Jamaica, I think this can really help you, because it is based on my exact process of like my thought, like what I think when I'm trying to figure out what I want out of life, which is what led me to Jamaica. Like, I still think about these things. When I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do I want just in general, I'm thinking about these things that I share in this workbook. If that's something that you'd like, it's available only for $5. I made it cheap. It's available for only $5, so you can get it if you want. But if you're interested in any of these things, the links will be available in the description and in the pinned comment. In the meantime, I appreciate you being here so much. If you do like this video, do subscribe so that you don't miss the next one. As well as if you have any suggestions for videos, like the reason I ended up creating this series, well, this is not a series, but the first video I created in the series prior to this video was about the like the barrels and stuff and like what to ship. That's because of your suggestions. I created these videos because of your suggestions. So if you have any other suggestions, even like the community video I talked about with from the one I did with Monique from Kingston, and even like the rentals that the interview I did with Nicola, with the realtor here in Jamaica, those are all because of your suggestions. So if you have any more suggestions of like what you want me to go over or talk about, or like give you the real deal on, just let me know. Leave it in the comments, let me know. I'll see what I can do. But as I said, I really appreciate you being here. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and I'll see you in the next one.